Okay, so I'm going to start with the demo now. So if you are looking at my desktop, I'm going to open up Hyper-V. So how do I open up Hyper-V again? I will just type in Hyper, and then I'll select Hyper-V Manager, and then it opens up Hyper-V for me. So in the center of the screen, I've got my virtual computers. I can see I've got 4 different virtual computers on mine here. What do I do next? I'm going to create a new virtual computer. So to create a new virtual computer, where do I go? I go to File, Actions, on the top here. Or I can go on the right-hand side here, New, and then I'm going to select Virtual Machine. It comes up with the wizard. So for the wizard, I'm going to click Next. I'm going to give the new virtual computer a name. So the name I'm going to give it is Suben Server 2016. And I'm going to go Next. I leave it as the default, Generation 1. Next. The amount of RAM initially we start with is 2000 because it's the minimum requirement for the installation. If I use less, it won't permit me to install. If I'm using more than one virtual computer later on, I can go and adjust this amount of RAM. Okay, but for now, we use 2000. We go Next. We're going to connect to the default switch. Okay, so the default switch is the one that is there by default. For now, we'll just leave it as the default switch, and we'll go Next. It will want to now create a virtual computer for us. It says it's called a virtual hard drive for us. So I can see here that it's already given my hard drive a name. So I'm going to leave it as the standard name, and then I'm going to go Next. And I'm going to say install a operating system from a bootable CD or DVD-ROM. Now remember, on your computers, it's on the desktop. So I'm doing this on my laptop, so the location is slightly different. So I'm going to click on an image file or ISO, and then I click on Browse. I will select the one that says Standard Server Core Data Center. Okay. There's 2 image files. The one is for the Windows 10 client, that's Pro 10, and the other one is for the server. So I'm going to select the server file, and then I'm going to say Open, and then I'm going to go Next. It's going to give me a summary, and then I'm going to go Finish. So the file that I choose, the ISO file that I'm going to choose, is going to be the file from the desktop. On the desktop, I've got a folder for ISO images. I choose the last one. Now, on the right-hand side here, I'm going to click on Connect, and then I'll click on Start. And it starts now with the installation of Windows Server 2016. You'll see it's very similar to the Windows 10 installation that we've done previously. So I've got Windows Server 2016. With any installation, we do the minimum changes when we do the installation. Anything that needs to be set, we go and set it later on. Okay, so for now, we leave it as the default. Default means whatever is there is the default. So I go Next, and I click on Install Now. Now, which edition to install? Many of us make the mistake of doing the first one. We need to select the second one. If you install the first one, you don't have a graphic user interface. That means you only can use commands. So here you have to choose the desktop experience, which is the second option. Then I go next. I need to accept the license agreement and go next. And then I'm going to click on custom. Now I'm not going to make any changes to the hard drive information. This is the hard drive that we created when we created that virtual computer. So by default, it will select that hard drive. I'm going to go next. And it will run through copying. So whilst this is copying, if you haven't started your installation, go and start your installation. So open up Hyper-V on your computers. And then you go on the right-hand side, new virtual computer. Okay, so if it does not have the local computer there, it means that you need to shut down your system and start it again. But you're not going to do that now. You'll do it after the demonstration. Okay? And if you shut down the entire computer and if it doesn't work, then you need to get someone from IT to assist you. When it reboots, it will tell you, do you want to boot from CD or DVD? No, you don't press any button. You just let it continue. Otherwise, you'll restart your setup. Okay, so the next important thing that you need to do is you need to set a password. And generally, we just use a standard password of password 1. Also, you will notice that it gives you a username that's there already, administrator. Can you see that? Okay. So when we log on to this computer, this server computer, we are going to use administrator as the username. The administrator is the super user account, meaning it can do anything that's required on this computer. Okay, so there's your username, administrator, that's there. I'm going to type in password 1. Can you, oh, wrong spelling. right? So this is the standard password that I use. Whether I'm creating user accounts or I'm creating Active Directory accounts, whatever it is I'm creating, I always use the same one so that I don't waste time trying to remember different passwords. So I'm going to retype the standard password, and then you can just check if it has been typed correctly, and then finish. And now it says press Control Alt Delete to unlock or to log on. How do I do this? I don't press Control Alt Delete on my keyboard. I go on the top here and I can, under Action, for Control Alt Delete, it says I must press Control Alt End. Can you see? So if you want to log in to this computer, you have to press Control Alt End, or you can simply go here to the Action menu and you can click on this, and then it automatically presses Control Alt End for you. I'm going to type in my password, and then I'm going to log in. So I've just created my server virtual computer. This is what my server virtual computer looks like. It says, do you want to allow this computer to be discovered by other computers on the network? I'm going to say yes. And by default, you'll see it opens up a program called Server Manager. Now, Server Manager is the main tool I'm going to be using to work with my server. Okay? If it does not open your Server Manager, you will see that you can open the Server Manager from the toolbar at the bottom of the screen. So at the bottom of the screen where I've got Start, I've also got another icon here at the bottom called Server Manager. Or if I just click on Start, can you see that one of the options here is Server Manager? Okay, so that's the quickest way to get to Server Manager. So now, if I'm in Server Manager, it's going to allow me to install roles and features, which we're going to go through just now. But before that, we need to set some information on the server. The first thing we need to do is we need to change the server's computer name. So I'm going to close my Server Manager. Okay. I'm going to right click on my Start, and I'm going to go to the System. And I'm going to now change the computer's name. This is 2 marks. Okay, to change the computer's name. So whilst it's waiting for me to do that, I'm going to open up a Word document. Let me just open up a Word document. And I'm going to be saving this now. File, save as. Let me get to the right place. This is network architecture. Okay. So I give it a name. So my name is surname, initial, my student number, and this one is NWAR 5112, and this is task 2. Can you see every time I create a document, I give it a good, meaningful name so that if I look at the document, I know exactly what document this is, right? I put my name, I put my student number, I put the module, and I said, what task is this? This is task 2, and I'm going to save it. So I can do the formatting and everything later on, but the reason I created this document for now is because I want to put my screenshots in here as I'm taking them, okay? So I've created my task 2 document, and I'm going to minimize that. So there's my system properties that it has opened. Can you see the computer name currently is Windows something? it automatically gave it a computer name. So I'm going to click on the right-hand side here to change settings. And then to rename this computer or change its domain, you need to click on change. So I click on change. And now where it's got computer name, I'm going to type. This is Suben server. And it's 2016, the version of the server. So I'm going to type it in like that. Once I've done that, I'm going to say OK. It's going to prompt me to reboot. Before restarting, save any open files. I'm going to say OK, close, and I'm going to restart. So that computer name, I'm going to take a screenshot of just now. Can you see the username is administrator when I'm logging on? Okay. So as administrator, I'm now going to log on using my password. And you'll see again by default, it's opening up Server Manager. So where did I go now? I want to take the screenshot of the computer name that I've changed. That's my first task. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to System. And here, can you see the computer name now has been changed to Suben Server 2016. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a screenshot of this. So I open up my snipping tool. Not inside there, inside here. So there's my snipping tool. I'm going to say new. I'm going to take a snip of this one here that says server name has been changed. Okay. So then I will go to my Word document. I will paste it in the Word document and I'll write my description. Computer name changed to Suben Server 2016. Right? So just very briefly now, I've written a description in my Word document. And then as I progress, I'm going to continue to do this. Okay? So I minimize. I'm going to minimize my snipping tool. And then I've changed the computer name. The next thing I need to do is to change the IP address. And I need to put in the other IP addresses as well. So I'm going to right click on my Network and Sharing Center. And then I'm going to open up Network Sharing Center. I'm going to click on Ethernet. I'm going to click on Details. And here I can see it's showing me it's got an IP address of 172.19. It got that from a server somewhere else. So I'm going to close and I'm going to click on Properties. Then I'm going to click on TCP IP version 4 and I click on Properties. I'm going to type in an IP address. Now this IP address is given to you in your task 2 POE document. 192.168.10 or 20, I think it is, .2. Your subnet mask is the default subnet mask. Your default gateway should be 192.168.20.1. And your DNS server should be the same as your computer, 192.168.20.2. So I can either take a screenshot of this one or I can go to the details. So I'm going to say OK, close, and I'm going to click on details again. And can you see it's changed my address information? So I'm going to take a screenshot of this one here now. So I go to my snipping tool, I go to new, and then I'm going to take a screenshot of my Ethernet adapters properties. And I'm going to say paste in my Word document. And I'm going to write here IP address changed to, and I'll type it in 192. And similarly, I'll type in subnet mask, default gateway, and the server's IP address. Okay, so subnet mask is 255. The default gateway is 192.168.20.2, and then DNS server is 192.168.20.2. Default gateway is .1. Okay, and then I'm finished with this second part. Then next thing I'm going to do now is the next activity, which tells me I need to install Active Directory. So I go back to my server now. I close this, close, close, and I'm going to go to my server manager. So I click on Start. I can see there's my server manager here. So there's my server manager. I click on Server Manager. From Server Manager, I'm going to go to Add Roles and Features. See, currently it says I've got a local server and I've got file and storage services, but I don't have Active Directory installed. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to install Active Directory. So I go to Add Roles and Features, and then I'm going to go Next. I leave it as role-based. I go Next. It will tell me select a server from the pool. It's already selected my server. I go Next. And now this is where I need to select the correct option. Active Directory Domain Services. So I put a tick in Active Directory Domain Services. Then it says, do you want to add these features? Yes, you click on Add Features, and you should have a full tick in Active Directory Domain Services. Can you see? Once I've selected the correct one, Active Directory Domain Services, I go Next. I don't select anything here unless I absolutely need to. So I leave it as it is, and I go Next, and then I go Next, and then finally Install. So it's going to progress now with it will show me the feature is being installed. Once it has been installed, you can close this. It'll say configuration is still required. Okay, you close, and you'll see that on the left-hand side, it has now added ADDS. Okay, so if I click on that ADDS, you will see configuration is required for Active Directory domain services. If I click on more, then it says there's post deployment that needs to be done, and there's a button here that says promote the server to a domain controller. So I'm going to click on that. Now I'm starting the process of installing Active Directory. Add a domain controller to an existing domain? No. Add a new domain to an existing forest? No. Add a new forest? Yes. So I put a tick in, add new forest. The root domain name must be your name, your initial of your surname, .com. This is the new domain that we are creating now. So you put your first name, initial of your surname, .com. Then you go next. Now it will ask you to type in a password for directory services restore mode. So we'll use the same standard password that we always use. I'll go next. And then it says a delegation for this DNS server could not be created because it could not be found, right? So specify DNS delegation options, create a DNS delegation. So you can leave this as it is, go next. Next, it will display a NetBIOS name. NetBIOS name is for backward compatibility with older computers, and automatically it will put in a name there for you. It's basically your domain name without the .com. So you leave it as it is and you go next. Then it will tell you this is where it's going to be installing the database files, the log files, and then the replication files. We go next. It gives you a summary. We go next. So far, this demonstration has shown you how to install your Windows Server 2016. That you do once off. Okay, once it's there, you go back and you work with the same virtual computer. Even Active Directory, we also install once. Okay, you don't go and reinstall Active Directory. So you install it once. It will tell you that the prerequisites check passed. There's some warnings. I'm not going to worry about the warnings, and I'm going to click on install. So what it's basically doing now is it's building the Active Directory database.
Can you see these 5 screenshots?
And then it will tell me it's going to reboot the computer. Notice now when it reboots, it's not going to allow me to to log into the computer. It's going to allow me to log into the domain. Remember, Active Directory is installation of a domain. So the domain that I created was subain.n.com. So I expect when I log in now, I'm going to be logging in to the subain.n domain. So let's see what it says. Remember, it's building my Active Directory database, therefore it takes a little bit of time. I think whilst we're waiting. Okay, so This is activity 1. So what did we do? We changed the computer name to domain controller 1. You change it to your name, okay? Not domain controller 1. TCP IP address, there's the TCP IP address, there's your subnet mask. There's the DNS server, there's the default gateway, and then your domain. So you need to take 3 screenshots here of the change computer name, TCP IP settings, and a screenshot showing that you have installed Active Directory. Example, take a screenshot of Active Directory users and computers. Let's look at the mark allocation. They're giving us 2 marks for the first screenshot, 6 marks for the next screenshot, because it's got 3 bits of information, and then Active Directory successfully installed, that's 7 marks. And that will be question 1 or activity 1. The next activity that we'll do is the installation of DHCP. So we need to install DHCP, we need to configure DHCP, and we need to set the DHCP options correctly. Okay? Now, DHCP does what for us on the network? What does DHCP do for us on the network? It hands out IP addresses. Hands out IP addresses. So can you see now, notice where I'm logging on to. Subain N is the domain and the username is administrator. Can you see the difference? This means Active Directory has been installed. Now I'm going to type in my password and I'm going to say okay, so now I need to take a screenshot to prove that Active Directory has been installed. Where do I take the screenshot? So I'm going to go in Server Manager. On the top here, where it's got tools, I'm going to click on the drop down for the tools, and I'm going to select Active Directory users and computers.
Thank you, sir.
So once I've selected Active Directory users and computers, can you see now I've got a domain here called subainn.com. Okay, so I can click on subainn.com as my domain, and I can see that I've got a domain that has built-in users, and it's got computer, it's got built-in user accounts. So I'm just going to click on users, and I'm going to take a screenshot here to prove that I've successfully installed Active Directory users and computers. So I'm going to go back to my snipping tool. I'm going to say new, and I'm going to take a snip here to show that Active Directory has been correctly installed. And I'm going to paste it into my Word document. Make sure that it's visible, right? And I type Active Directory installed for the subainn.com domain. Can you see, right? So I've got a picture that shows there's Subain N. It's showing me its Active Directory users and computers. And then I've written a description below to say what is going on here. Okay. Now I have completed the first part of this task 2. So I'm just going to stop the recording and then I'll start the recording again to demonstrate the next activity.